So for today, we're going to focus on language and style, as well as techniques, really. Okay? Right. So we'll start off with a video from YouTube that I want all of you to watch. It is an aspect that some of you have studied in class. Then for some of you that have not studied it, this is your chance to learn about it, because satire is a very important aspect.
In this lecture, the topic, satire, is going to be explained in detail with definition, examples, and functions. But if you're new to my channel, then please like and subscribe the channel. It can be defined as: satire is a literary device for the artful ridicule of folly or vice as a means of exposing or correcting it. What does it mean? Simply, it means that satire is a technique that uses humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices. Satire is often used to comment on social or political issues, and it can be a powerful tool for change. There must be a question in your mind that, why satire is used in literature, or what function a satire does in literature. The simple answer is, the function of satire is to use humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. Satire is intended to make us laugh, but it is also intended to make us think and to challenge our assumptions. You can take as example of satire, Gulliver's Travels. In Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, the protagonist, Lemuel Gulliver, visits several strange and fantastical lands. Each land is a satire of a different aspect of English society. For example, the land of the Lilliputians is a satire of bureaucracy, and the land of the Brobdingnagians is a satire of human greed. In English literature, satire is used to entertain. Satire can be very funny, and it can be a great way to make people laugh. To criticize. Satire can be used to criticize people, institutions, or ideas. It can be a powerful tool for social and political change. To educate. Satire can be used to educate people about social and political issues. It can help us to see the world in a new way and to understand complex issues. To unite people. Satire can be used to bring people together around a common cause. It can help us to see the absurdity of our own prejudices and to laugh at ourselves. Well, if you have enjoyed this lecture, then please don't forget like and subscription to the channel. Thank you.
Okay.
Once.
So I hope you have watched that. So part of what we're going to look at in today's lesson is satire, and it is a tool that is used in literature by some writers, whether it's a poet or a playwright or an author. And from the video, they have actually told us what satire is. And I think now it is your turn to tell me, what have you understood about satire? What is satire really, from what you have watched in the video? I don't know if people need to do a second watch before we begin our discussion. If you think you need to watch again, or if you came on late, just raise your hand so that I see if it's necessary to watch this again. Right. Just a moment. Okay. No, maybe I'm going to show you another one so that, okay, you understand this. So this time I hope that we are ready to listen and pay some attention. So we're going to watch this video. I said earlier that today's lesson is focusing on language and style. And we will look at satire majorly during the lesson, though we shall also look at all the other aspects of language and style. So it's going to be more practical. We'll have extracts to look at. Okay. So for now, please listen as you watch this. I hope you can all see.
All right, welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that can be as sharp as a sword, but as funny as a stand-up special. We're talking about satire. It's this art of ridicule, really, and it's been shaping the world for centuries, and we're going to figure out exactly how it works. So let's start with this big question. How can just making fun of something actually be a tool for change? I mean, it sounds kind of backward, doesn't it? But trust me, when ridicule is done right, it is one of the most powerful ways to shine a light on what's wrong with the world. So let's get into it. Okay, so to really get it, we've got to go way beyond just a simple dictionary definition. So let's ask, what is satire, really, at its heart? All right, so here's the official kind of academic definition. Satire is a literary device for the artful ridicule of folly or vice as a means of exposing or correcting it. Whew. Okay, I know, that sounds a little stuffy, but the key words in there are everything. You've got artful ridicule, exposing, and correcting. That's where all the magic is. So let's put that in plain English. It's basically using humor to expose and criticize people's stupidity or their vices. You know, it's like shining this hilarious but super, super bright spotlight on all the problems we'd rather just ignore. So, what's the recipe here? How do you actually make satire? Because it's definitely more than just telling a joke. There are a few key ingredients that satirists mix together to get that perfect blend of funny and ouch. Okay, so there are basically four main ingredients. First, you've got humor. That's what pulls you in. Then, you add a heavy dose of exaggeration. You take a small flaw and blow it up so big that nobody can miss it. After that comes irony, right? That clever wink where what's being said is the opposite of what's actually meant. And all of this builds up to the final ingredient, ridicule. It makes the target seem completely absurd. It's a killer combination. But, and this is really important, while satire makes you laugh, its purpose is dead serious. It is so much more than just a joke. See, the laughter is just the sugar that helps the medicine go down. The real point, the whole reason for it, is to make us think. It's designed to make you pause and go, wait a minute. It wants you to question everything, even your own beliefs. You can really boil down what satire does into four main jobs. First, it criticizes, usually people, big institutions, or powerful ideas. It also educates us, kind of simplifying really complicated stuff so we can see it clearly. And yeah, of course, it entertains us. But maybe the most powerful thing it does, it unites people. It gives everyone a shared laugh at something that's just plain ridiculous. Okay, so that's all the theory. But what does this look like in the real world? Let's take a look at a classic case study, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. You've probably heard of it. Now, the brilliant thing about this book is that Swift never comes right out and says, hey, England, you've got problems. Nope. Instead, he sends his main character, Gulliver, to all these wild, fantastical lands, and each one is basically a funhouse mirror reflecting a different, messed up part of 18th century English society. So let's break this down. Take the land of the Lilliputians. These teeny tiny people. They're on the brink of war over which end of a boiled egg you should crack open. That sounds nuts, right? But it's not just a silly story. That's Swift using exaggeration to ridicule the totally pointless political arguments happening in England at the time. Then you have the opposite. Gulliver visits the land of the Brobdingians, who are giants, and he sees their skin up close, all the pores and blemishes, and it's a metaphor for the moral ugliness of humanity when you put it under a microscope. All right, so let's bring this all together. What's the big takeaway here? It's really about learning to see the world with with a satirical eye. So here's the thing to remember. Satire isn't just about being mean or making fun of people for the sake of it. No way. It's a really sharp, sophisticated tool. It uses humor to cut through all the nonsense, to point out uncomfortable truths, and maybe, just maybe, to push us all to do a little better. So now you know the secrets. You've got the toolkit: humor, exaggeration, irony, and ridicule. So the big question for you is, where do you see satire at work in the world today? Because I promise you, once you start looking for it, you're going to see it absolutely everywhere.
Okay, so I hope from the two videos now someone has picked something. And from what you've watched, I want you to tell me what satire is. Today's lesson, I expect a lot of participation, so that we actually get this language thing into our system. When you participate more, that's how you learn to pick the aspects from whatever your extract is. Okay, so anyone who wants to tell us what satire is? Yes, Samsung SM. Okay, Samsung disappeared. Nyakato, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, teacher.
Good afternoon.
From watching the two videos, my understanding of satire in my own words, I'd say it's a literary device used to ridicule, criticize, mock, yet still in a humorous way, and also reveal uncomfortable truths in our society. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so you get a writer who uses humor, and as they're using humor, they're ridiculing or mocking a vice, a flaw, a bad thing in our society, bad behavior in our society. So as you laugh, you actually realize, oh, okay, now this writer is pointing out the greed that we have. As you laugh, you're saying, okay, this guy is actually making us look at the hypocrisy that we have in our society. But it just doesn't stop at exposing those things or ridiculing them. It goes an extra mile because it wants you to change your ways. There's an element of it being used so that people change. So it pushes you to actually get the message so that you can do better. Now it is a good technique because people keep laughing, they're interested. But then afterwards you're beginning to ask yourself, after you've done all the laughing, you ask yourself, oh, okay, what is this guy or this lady actually saying? So you realize that at the end of it all, there are things that you learn, the things that you pick, and therein lies the effectiveness of satire. Also, in the video, they kept mentioning certain tools, certain things that become easy for us to pick out and say that this is satire. Who remembers any of those tools that were talked about? Any tool that someone remembers? Yes, Immaculate?
Humor.
Good. Humor is one of them. Bright, your hand was up. Okay, Quinn?
Irony.
Irony, good. Clara?
Exaggeration, hyperbole,
Clara, what did you say?
hyperbole or exaggeration.
Good. Exaggeration or hyperbole? Abby? Abby, you're saying something? Okay, I think we can't hear what you're saying. Bright?
Teacher, you also
Yes,
spoke
please.
of ridicule.
Okay. Now, ridicule is more of an effect. Abby, your hand is still up, but we don't hear what you're saying. Okay, so at least people have gotten the exaggeration, the irony, the humor. Those are tools of satire. And there are things that actually enable us to see or to easily pick out that this is a satire or not. So you need to be keen when you have a piece before you and they've asked you a question on satire. Okay, how would you know that there is satire in the passage or in the drama piece that you have or in the poem that you have before you? So you need to be able to see, is there exaggeration? And if it is there, does it ridicule a particular vice or flaw in character? Is there irony? Is there exaggeration? And does it ridicule particular misbehavior or flaws in society or vices? And in the long run, does ridiculing those things actually teach us something? So those are the tools that we expect. Still from the videos, we saw a little bit on the effectiveness when satire is used. What does it do for us? What does it help us understand? What does it how does it affect us? Anyone who wants to tell us? Yes, Nyakato.
So from what I picked from the video, they say that satire can be used to entertain, criticize, educate on social and political issues, unite people, and also reveal uncomfortable truths in the society.
Very good. Okay. Reveal uncomfortable truths, educate, entertain. All those are effects of satire. So I think it was last week when someone wanted me to give particular effectiveness of techniques. Now you realize that when we look at satire, the effectiveness cannot be just one. It has many, so you pick whatever suits the occasion at that point. Okay? So to summarize, before we get practical, allow me to just go through these 2 slides. Okay, so from the videos, we've been looking at satire, and we have seen that it has tools or elements. Probably before we do a gloss over those tools, I need someone to tell me about this picture. What do you see? Is it satirical in any way? And from the tools that we've looked at, which ones do you think it is using? What do we see in the picture? Anyone? Let's just begin with what you're seeing. What are we seeing? Yes, Abby?
Okay, this place two people cut down trees.
Abby, you need to be a little bit louder.
Okay, this place two people will cut down trees.
Okay, I think I have failed to hear what you're saying. I don't know if someone has heard. Please tell us what Abby has said. Yes, Nyakato?
Hello.
Yes.
I also can't hear her, but I was giving my
I'm
personal
saying,
point of view.
Okay, Abby, you speak.
okay, I'm saying it displays two people with the cut down, like the cut down trees.
Hmm.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, two people and trees that have been cut down. Okay, thank you. Yes, Nyakato, you want to add to what Abby has said?
Yes, I was going to say, yeah, what's being satirized is deforestation, the act of deforestation, since so many trees have been cut down, and also the fact that they talk about creation of green jobs to save the environment. It's clearly cutting down trees doesn't save the environment.
Okay, so what tool is that?
I would say mockery or ridicule, one of the two. Yeah, and
True.
also criticism.
Okay. I hope we see the irony as well. Thank you very much, Nyakato. Matthew, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
It's already been said. I wanted to say that the picture employs an aspect of irony, since
Okay. Thank you, Matthew. So they've pointed out irony, they've pointed out ridicule. You know, someone is talking about the environment and saving it, but they have cut down all the trees so that they print money to bail out money that is needed to create green jobs. So I hope you can see the satire there. There's a bit of irony, there's a bit of exaggeration because all the trees have been cut down just to print money, and yet they could have done it differently. So sometimes the satire is not just about the words, but also it can be in the pictures. So the tools that we need to have on our fingertips that can actually ease our way of identifying satire are majorly four, but you can have these others, though they might also be under exaggeration. But because we are literature students, sometimes it helps when we know these terms and can easily talk about them. So exaggeration or hyperbole is important. Then irony is another tool, the opposite of what is expected. When you say the opposite of what you actually mean. Then ridicule, okay. Humor, something is funny, you laugh about it, but it goes an extra mile. It just doesn't stop at you laughing. Then sometimes you have understatement that is used, where you talk about things at a very low key, so that it looks like you're understating them instead of telling us what actually is. Now, that is another way you can identify satire, or overstatement. Now, overstatement is linked to exaggeration. Then, of course, there's caricature, but this one is more in picture form. And then some of you have seen when people write and they have used those F words, S words. So you have those stars to replace certain letters. That is also a technique in literature. You can refer to it as vulgarism or use of profanities. So those are also tools of satire. Someone does not want to be vulgar, but through their using those words, you're actually able to see what vices or flaws they are pointing out, so that there are particular things that you're educated about. So those are some of the tools of satire that you need to know. So in your tasks, if you're asked to talk about satire, you need to know what tool has been used. If you can include it in your answer, it gives you a better grade than if you just say satire is used when this statement is said. So that statement, when you look at it, is it ironic? Is it an exaggeration? Is it an understatement? That kind of thing. And then the effectiveness, we have kind of looked at this. So satire can be used to mock flaws in behavior or to mock vices. Satire can be used to criticize certain behavior. Satire can be used to ridicule. Ridicule and mock are kind of synonyms. Then satire can be used to teach or educate. Satire can be used to expose flaws. So someone just wants to expose maybe greed, or expose ambition for power, or expose betrayal. All those are weaknesses in our society. Then satire can also be used to entertain, okay? Because it uses humor. So you're entertained and laughing about it. I think there's a video that also talked about the unity, but that unity comes because of the laughing. So you're laughing together. You might even be laughing with the person who does that exact bad thing. They're laughing about it, and then afterwards they go home and say, okay, oh, so whatever I'm doing is actually wrong, so I need to change. So all these, you can use any of them when you are asked about the effectiveness of satire, or to explain the effectiveness of satire. So these words are important when you're looking at satire. I don't know if anyone has any question. I need to take some questions before we proceed. Any questions? Okay. Looks like there are no questions. Okay. Queen, yes, please go ahead and ask.
All right, so thank you, madam. I'm asking that, so like when they've told us talk about style, we just come and say the use of satire, for example, humor, and then we describe where humor is seen, or we just go straight and talk about humor without introducing the aspect of satire?
No, you
Yeah.
must talk about the satire. You must talk about the satire. So you can say something like, satire is used in the poem through humor, full stop, and then you go ahead. In this line, the speaker says you put whatever line is funny, and when they use this line, it is used to ridicule maybe the grid in so and so in the poem. Okay, so you must
Yes.
talk about the satire, and then you talk about the tool where you can, then you give a specific example, and then you give the effectiveness. So those four things are important for you to do. Okay. Okay. Yes, Vicky.
Thank you. Well, I'm kindly requesting to explain to me this element of caricature. Yeah, again, I didn't pick it well. Thank you.
Okay. Now to explain caricature, I'll refer to, you have seen Spire, those cartoons that Spire draws, or Lizard in Monitor for those who read newspapers. Now, this cartoonist draws something and you're laughing about it, but as you're laughing, they're pointing out serious issues that are affecting the community. Spire has been doing a lot, especially in this election period. But even Lizard on a daily, there's that cartoon on the first page. You're laughing at whatever is being said, or just laughing at the pictures because they're exaggerated to reveal certain things. And then as you laugh, you notice that they are criticizing or ridiculing or scorning or mocking a particular flaw or vice in society, and you learn something about it. Okay, so caricature is more in pictures, especially those cartoonists. Okay, so I think we can move on. Now we're going to become more practical here, and I'd actually be very glad if someone volunteers to take on the lead in discussing. So I have two pieces to discuss. I think I'll begin with the shorter one. It's part of a letter. I think this letter is in your UNEP book. I think it could have been the 1999 exam or something. Okay, so it's what we're going to look at first. And as we look at it, now here, we're not just going to look out for satire, but we are also going to look out for different aspects of language and style. So I'm leaving the flow open so that we remind ourselves of language in prose or novels. How would you actually analyze it so that you get your points? I hope you can make it bigger on your gadgets. Can I get someone to read for us? Yes, Matthew?
Thank you for the opportunity. Chicago, Sunday, October 10th. Dear Mom, I felt like a dog passing you downtown last night and not speaking to you. You were great though. Didn't give a sign that you even knew me, let alone I was your son. If I hadn't had the girl with me, Ma, we might have popped. I'm not as scared as I used to be about somebody taking me for colored anymore just because I'm seen talking on the street to a Negro. I guess in looks I'm sort of suspect proof. Anyway, remember what a hard time I used to have in school trying to convince teachers I was really colored? Sometimes, even after they met you, my mother, they wouldn't believe it. They just thought I had a mulatto mommy, I guess.
Okay,
Activity.
thank you very much. So it's just one paragraph from the whole letter. The letter is long, but I just picked out the very first part of the letter. So, I'm opening up the floor for discussion. I would appreciate if I could get someone to volunteer to lead the discussion as I listen in and come in where possible. So what aspects of language do we see? Maybe before we go to the aspect, who do you think the speaker is? Let us look at number one. Who is a speaker? Anyone who has an idea? And who they are actually speaking to? Yes, Clara. Clara, please go ahead and speak.
I think it's first person speaker with the use of I. Then maybe he's speaking to the mother. That's what I think.
Okay, good. Someone needs to add to your answer. True, it is first person because we have the I, okay, which gives us authenticity, shows us that we can trust the source because someone is telling us about what happened to them. That is the effectiveness, but I need someone to add to that answer. Yes, Vicky.
Okay, the speaker is first person with the use of I. He is also speaking to the mother, and he is a colored. Yeah, okay, sorry, let me begin afresh. The speaker is first person with the use of I, who is a son speaking to the mother on how he no longer fears to be a colored.
Okay. Thank you, Vicky. What shows that it's a son? Why can't it be a girl?
Because in the letter there is something, I was your son, let alone I was your son. Yeah, that statement.
Very good. So you should be able to give that evidence, eh? Even as you write your answer. Make sure that whatever answer you give, there is evidence to back it up so that you get your full marks. Okay? So clearly it is a male child. That is why they talk about dear ma. So they're writing to their mother. So just in case you're asked about the audience, ideally you should say that the audience is the mother because this is a letter that is being written to her. Okay, Matthew, you have a question?
Yes, I was asking that if you're speaking the passage, is it okay to like give a summary of the plot of the clause as an answer?
When you're talking about the speaker.
Yes, if I agree that the speaker in the passage is a first person narrator, is apologizing to his mother for having.
When I don't know, I've lost you kind of, but when you're given a specific question, just concentrate on that. Eh? So if you're asked about the speaker, just talk about who the speaker is. You can begin with the point of view. So is it first person or second person or third person? And then you give your evidence and the effectiveness. So if it is first person, usually someone is telling us things that have happened to them. So we trust the source. Eh? If it is third person, someone is telling us what they have seen So still, we trust the source. If it is second person, then someone wants us to be part of the discussion. So when someone keeps saying you, they want us to feel whatever they are feeling. They want us to go through, put ourselves in their shoes. So that becomes the effectiveness. Then after you have given your point of view line, then you can talk about the specific speaker. Can you pick it out? Is it a he or a she? You must give evidence. Is it a colored? What evidence do we have? So, is it a beggar? Is it a pencil? Is it whatever speaking voice you identify must be specifically spoken about, and then you give your evidence. So you don't need to give the subject matter or plot or whatever the extract is about when you're only asked about the speaker. You will talk about it when you get a question on it. Okay? So now that we know who the speaker is and we know that it's picked from a letter because we have the DMI etc., let us look at those devices that we have. Anyone can give us anything that they see, and then we take it from there. So any aspects of language or style that you see, but as you give them, you give us examples and the effectiveness where possible. Okay, Nyakato?
So right off the back, in the beginning of the letter, we see this person saying, I felt like a dog. This is use of similes due to the use of the word like. Yes. So examples of similes, as happy as a king, as dark as charcoal. Okay, yeah, those are examples. The effectiveness is to show how bad or worthless this person felt because yeah, dog is not particularly the best animal one would use to refer to themselves as. So yes, so I would say in terms of effectiveness is to show how worthless or unwanted this person felt.
Okay, thank you. So I hope you've seen that. Simile, then the example, felt like a dog. The effectiveness to show how worthless, how terrible this person felt for passing by their mother without acknowledging their presence. I don't know how many of you would meet your mothers in town and just pass by them. Just know maybe canes would be waiting for you at home. Chances are high, or some sort of punishment. Okay? Anyone else who's saying something? Yes, Abby?
Okay, me, I'll speak about imaginary. With the phrase passing
Abby,
it down.
First, hold on. Imaginary or imagery? Which one?
Sorry, imagery, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I'll speak about imagery, giving a phrase passing it downtown. And this helps us to visualize and give a, like, it helps us visualize and it helps us visualize the scene, making the moment more vivid. Yeah, that's what I'll talk about.
Okay, thank you. So we have visual imagery. We can actually see this young man passing by his mother, and it paints the picture for us very well about what happened. So this young boy ignored his mother and passed by her, which makes us understand why he feels the way that he does. So it could tell us something about his character, probably being pretentious, because usually you pass by people you know because you pretend you don't know them. So it brings out something in your character. Okay, thank you. Yes, tremendous.
For me, I see flashback, and it is shared when it says that you remember what a hard time I used to have in school. Like, so this enables us to get a hint of the difficult time, of a difficult lifestyle we went through while in school because of this color scheme.
Good. Okay, so flashback, reminiscence, actually, when he tries to take the mother back to that time when he had a difficult time in school, trying to show the teachers that he was colored or not. So there's an element of apartheid, to bring out that discrimination in the society. Okay, thank you. Kyle?
There is use of simple English in the entire passage.
Mm-hmm.
This enables us for easy understanding of the message in the passage.
Right. But when you talk about simple English, you should be able to give us examples of those words that are simple. Okay? So don't just stop at saying that the English is simple. Which words do we have that are simple for us to understand and they bring a message home? So you can't just pick on any word and say, for example, the use of the word because. You pick on those simple words that have meaning, that create meaning. If someone is using the word colored, it brings in an element of discrimination, segregation, because when we talk about colored, it's like talking about blacks and whites. Okay, so you pick on those simple words, but that have meaning.
Madam,
Yes, Kyle.
what if I say in the entire poem, or passage? So I have to get a specific word or something like that.
Yes, you must have some, you must mention which words are simple.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
because why I'm saying that, when you say the entire passage, someone will say, what about the word mulatto? Is it simple? What does it mean? Okay, so you can't generalize, but you can pick specific examples, because you'll find that yes, generally the English might be simple, but there are usually some words that are a bit difficult. So when you generalize, then you are putting yourself on one side that might not necessarily be true. Okay, so it is best that you pick out certain words. Clara?
Okay, madam, I just want clarity about something. Like, I thought that simple English is used in only poems, but not in prose.
No,
That's what I was.
even prose has simple English. Okay. Okay, you don't use it in novels as well as drama, plays, but when you're talking about prose and poetry, you can talk about simple English. Okay, so which other aspects? Yes, Nyakato?
Teacher Teddy, I'd just like clarity on what I've just said in regard to the use of simple English. So, if a person writes different examples of simple, words that use simple English in the prose piece or poem piece, and then in the effectiveness, I say for easy understanding of the prose piece or poem piece, isn't that a bit of contradiction? Because as you have said, maybe there are difficult words within that prose piece. How is like not only the few words you have cited are going to particularly fulfill the effectiveness you have applied for that uh, particular style. I don't know whether my question is making sense, but yeah.
Yes, I've understood. Now, it can only be contradiction if in one paragraph you talk about the use of simple English, and then in another paragraph you talk about the use of hard English or difficult words. or difficult register, whatever you want to call it. But if you just speak on one, it is well, it is okay. Okay? So just pick on one.
Okay,
Yes,
teacher.
Bright.
Okay, teacher. I don't know if somebody has mentioned this, but my point is flashback. Like where it reads, you remember a hard time you remember what a hard time I used to have in school trying to convince teachers I was really colored. There's the aspect of flashback there, and I will say the effective of flashback is it brings out the depth of the story of the text of the literal text you're addressing. It brings out the depth, it fills in a gap of what is happening, brings out the points that had happened before. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Someone had spoken about that, but yes, thank you for re-echoing. Clara?
Okay, madam. I'm just inquiring. Like you talked about, I never knew that there is a device used for it, or the like as we have simple English, but there is even use of deep part English. So if there is use of deep part English, what is the effectiveness of?
Okay, so difficult register can teach you new words or expose you to, depending on the passage. You know, when effectiveness can never be one. Sometimes it brings out how educated whoever is speaking is. So maybe you have a passage that has been picked from a speech by, who's that MP who's always using big words? I forget his name. So you have that kind of passage or kind of English of what he says, and those big words, they can expose the fact that this person has gone to school, or they make you, whoever has written, mock this person because they're speaking a language that is difficult to understand on issues that are ordinary. So I will keep on saying that you cannot cram effectiveness. It depends on the piece that you're reading and what it's about and things like that. But usually new words, improving your vocabulary and things along those lines. Okay, Tabby?
Teacher, I'm going to say satire, but I don't know whether someone has said it yet. I feel like
Not yet.
satire is a device used in this passage, and I think its effectiveness is to expose the segregation that happens in society even still today.
Mm-hmm. So which tool has been used? Which tool of satire has been used? You need to point out for us the example.
Maybe exaggeration.
Mm-hmm. Where?
Because he doesn't mention it only once, because he says, because now in the first passage he says, I'm not as scared as I used to be about somebody calling me colored. And then again he highlights it during his school days about how the teachers never used to believe him.
Okay. So you can have that exaggeration. But then there's also exaggeration. Much as we've put it under simile, it is also exaggeration. I felt like a dog. We are human beings, really. We don't even know how dogs feel. But if someone is likening the feeling that they went through to that of a dog, that is exaggeration. And, in a way, they're criticizing and kind of bringing out the segregation in the society. Because this person passes by their mother because they do not want to associate with the blacks. So for him, probably his father is white, that is why he's colored, and his mother is black. So in order not to show people that I know that woman because of the times that they're living in, he has to pass by her. Okay.
Maybe, teacher, if I could ask, how exactly are you supposed to state your answer? Because, okay, let me say, I say, satire is used as a device through exaggeration, whereby the speaker likens himself to a dog in the eyes of his mother because of the racial segregation he feels or that he faces due to the different um, appearance from his mother. Is that the way to state the answer, or how else do you state the answer?
Okay. Thank you. The way you've started would be correct, but you have twisted your answer a bit. Now, you can say something like the persona or writer uses satire in the passage or through the exaggeration in the passage, satire is seen to be used. The speaker says that he felt like a dog, yet we know that human beings are human. They have no feelings like dogs, or dogs do not necessarily have feelings like human beings. This shows how pretentious the character is, because the way he feels is because he passed his mother without saying anything to her. So that feeling of, oh no, I shouldn't have done that, but because of the segregation around me, I needed to do it. Okay? So you give the point, which is satire, you mention the tool, you give an example, and then you give the effectiveness. So your explanation should be somewhere in there. Okay? Kyle, go ahead.
Madam, I have a simple question before I give an answer. So do we also have punctuation in prose?
Yes, in prose. Not in drama, not in novels, but in prose, yes.
So I give an example of punctuation. Okay.
Where? Which mark?
I've seen commas. So there, there are commas. Like
True,
you get
they are there. But in literature, when we are looking at punctuation, we're not just looking at ordinary punctuation. We are looking at extraordinary punctuation. So usually in English language, we expect full stops and commas. Where it becomes extraordinary is when they are not there. So if you have a passage that is not punctuated, that is extraordinary. Also, if we are looking at punctuation, exclamation marks become extraordinary because we only use them maybe when someone is shocked or surprised or excited or things like that. Question marks can also be extraordinary because usually we speak normally, statements, except when we are asking a question that becomes extraordinary. If someone has an ellipsis, that is also extraordinary because it's not normal. It makes you think about what they're going to say next or what they have already said. Which other punctuation mark is extraordinary? A
Teacher, what is
semicolon
an
or a
ellipsis?
colon? Okay.
What about dash? A dash.
Yes. Hyphens or dashes are also extraordinary because they're letting you fill in the gaps. So it's not just when you talk about punctuation, it's not just about commas and full stops. You're looking for extraordinary punctuation or the lack of punctuation.
But
Highlight.
madam,
Yes.
I thought if a sentence has like more than 2 or 1 commas, because specifically me, I've seen commas. So if I give that as a style, won't I get a mark? Because like this, let me see, the third last line, sometimes there are a lot of commas. So if I give it as a style, I'm not going to get any mark.
Now it's going to depend. There's nothing with commas here. They are normal. They're used normally. But sometimes you'll find, especially in poetry, in prose, no, I wouldn't advise you to use commas as an answer for punctuation. In poetry, if there are many and someone seems to be adding and adding and adding information, like as many as 5 commas, but they just keep adding. I met her the other day. She was beautiful. She was, and then, those continuous commas. That one might earn you a mark because it someone is giving us more information, is being more descriptive. But in prose, please don't talk about commas, don't talk about full stops. Those are normal, they are ordinary. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, madam.
You're welcome. Abby, you want to say something?
Yes, I think they have not talked about direct address. Because if we go back to the text, we see where the writer says, sometimes even after they met, you, my mother. So that means this helps us in creating intimacy and revealing, like it helps us in creating intimacy, which helps us to reveal confession, and is it pain, confession? Yeah, that's what I can talk about that.
Okay. True, direct address, but the direct address comes more from the fact that this is a letter, which is actually a
Okay.
device. So
Okay.
someone is writing to their mother. And of course, when you're writing a letter, it's like you're speaking directly to the person. So you must address them directly. But it stems from the letter. Okay? So the device here is the letter. And then you can talk about how the speaker directly addresses the mother. Okay? Thank you very much for that answer. Clara?
Okay, madam, for me, I'm just asking, I don't remember this kind of device, and I don't know whether it fits here, but there is what they call like you name an object, a living object, where a person is a person. I don't know how it's called personification. So I thought like a dog. I don't know whether they name the objects, the character of of the person, or whether they give an object to what. So you help me with that, whether it can fit.
Okay, thank you. So we can talk about personification when this writer claims that dogs have feelings. But this line is more of animation because we know it's a human being speaking, but they're likening themselves to an animal. So it's either simile or animation, better animation than personification of the dog. In the poem that we're going to look at, maybe personification will come out better than it does here. So yes, you can talk about animation. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else that someone sees?
Maybe to help you, teacher, in the chat, Kyle is saying, or Kyle, sorry, I don't know how to say your name, but he's asking what of use of a single stanza.
No, like I said, this is an extract. I just picked one paragraph. It's not a stanza even. It's a paragraph because it's prose.
Okay. Okay, so basically in prose, the use of one paragraph will not be accepted as an answer. But then if it's in poetry, then it would be used as an answer, right?
Yeah, you can talk about the one stanza in poetry.
Okay.
Okay, Nyakato, was that you speaking or it was someone else?
It was someone else. I have another point I'd like to contribute. I'd say the use of foreign or native language due to the use of the word mulatto. So for my research here, I found out that mulatto is a Spanish word referring to a person who is born to one black parent and one white parent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So foreign language to emphasize the segregation. What about this word, ma? What kind of language is that?
Madam, isn't that casual language?
How do we refer to that in literary terms? Do we call it casual language?
No, I don't know. Maybe
It's informal
it's
register
informal, yeah.
or informal diction. Okay, Clara, your hand is up. Someone can take a screenshot of that to add to your answers, but for most of them, we have actually talked about them. Yes, Clara.
Madam, I think the use of like the word ma is what is called use of local dialects. I don't know. But I think maybe it's called use of local dialects.
Okay, we can talk about dialect, but it's more of informal language, informal register.
Madam, but I've not talked about irony. How can we talk about irony as far as that is concerned?
Okay, when we look at the passage, irony is used. Normally, remember we said that irony is the opposite of what is expected. Okay, so we have this speaker who passes their mother the previous night and does not even speak to them. Normally, for all of us, the minute you'd meet your mother, you'd be excited, you'd want to greet them and speak to them as long as you haven't had a fight. But even when you've had a fight, at least you greet, because, our mothers will never change. Your mother is your mother. So this person does the opposite. When they pass by their mother and do not even speak to them, they don't even give a sign that they know the mother, and the mother does not give a sign either. Okay? So we have that irony. It is situational. Yeah, it is situational irony because you'd expect a mother and son to stop and talk, but these people actually pass themselves because they're living in an environment where blacks and whites are not supposed to mix. Okay? So that brings out the segregation or discrimination in the society. I hope I've answered your question. Okay. So down here, we've talked about the letter, and of course you can give evidence, the DMR, or even the death and things. Then first person point of view, the I, we've talked about that, which brings out the personal experience of the speaker. Then simile, we've talked about that. Informal register, we've talked about that. Reminiscence, we've talked about that. Satire, that exaggeration. They just thought I had a mulatto mommy, I guess, to ridicule the vanity of the whites or to ridicule the discrimination in the society. Then the short sentences, okay? to bring out those strong emotions of this person's, the speaker's appreciation of the mother and how she executed this whole thing. You know, we pass by each other, but because, you know, we live in a society where there's segregation and maybe we're surrounded by whites, you just pass by me. Okay? Then there's paradox. That one we've already explained under irony. You can either talk about irony or paradox. The writer bypasses their own mother deliberately to bring out the racism in their society. Okay, so I hope someone has taken a screenshot or written those to add to what we had discussed earlier. I don't know if anyone has any question before we move to our next extract. This one will be a poem. Okay. Okay, just a moment. This one has answers. Let me look for. Oh my. Okay. So I need a volunteer who's going to read for us. Okay, Tabby, you're going to read for us. These days there's a lot of talk about war and what. So let's see what happens during the war. Tabby, go ahead and read.
Okay. The war works hard. Dania Mikhail. How magnificent the war is. How eager and efficient. Early in the morning, it wakes up the sirens and dispatches ambulances to various places. Swings corpses through the air, rolls stretchers to the wounded, summons rain from the eyes of mothers, digs into the earth, dislodging many things from under the ruins. Some are lifeless and glistening, others are pale and still throbbing. It produces the most questions, and in the minds of children entertains the gods by shooting fireworks and missiles into the sky, sows mines into the fields, and rips punctures in blisters, urges families to emigrate, stands beside the clergymen as they curse the devil. Poor devil, he remains, with one hand in the searing fire. The war continues, working day and night. It inspires tyrants to deliver long speeches, awards, medals to generals, and themes to poets. It contributes to the industry of artificial limbs, provides food for flies, adds pages to the history books, achieves equality between killer and killed, teaches lovers to write letters, accustoms young women to waiting, fills the newspapers with articles and pictures, builds new houses for the orphans, invigorates the coffin makers, gives grave diggers a pat on the back, and paints a smile on the leader's face. It works with unparalleled diligence, yet no one gives it a word of praise.
Okay, thank you very much. So tell me about this poem in terms of language and satire and those things. Is it really a satirical poem? Yes, Tabby.
I feel like it's a satirical poem because, okay, basically, recently we've been through the election period, and somehow in Uganda we can't get through elections without there being a war, and everything that happens in the war about the grave diggers being enriched or something like that is happening right now, and it puts a smile on the leader's face or anything like that, because some people, the people who instigate the war, feel like, yeah, I think I've done it. I have done what they are trying to do. And I also feel like there's use of personification because they are giving the praise and giving this war all human figures or features, because they're saying it works hard, and yet we know war is a non-living thing. Like, it can't have feelings, it can't have arms to work hard, but then they're giving it these human features, saying it works hard. So yeah.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to add? Yes, Vicky.
Thank you. Well, the poem is satirical in through the use of irony. The first statement is how magnificent the war is. In actual sense, war is not magnificent. And also through the use of over-exaggeration. They over-exaggerate the effect of war throughout the poem, thus being satirical.
Okay. Thank you. So there's exaggeration as well. There's irony. So clearly, this poem is satirical and very relevant to whatever situation is happening around you in the country now. I'm trying to see if I can get it on one page so that we let me see what the orientation will look like. Okay. So if we are looking at the language, what things are people actually seeing aside from the satire that is meant to mock people who think that war is an easy thing and, a war can just be started? I hope we've seen all the negatives that someone is talking about, even if the last line says that, it's not given the praise that it deserves. If you are asked to talk about the language in this poem, the style in this poem, what other things would you talk about? Okay, I hope this is better. So I'm waiting for your contribution.
Teacher, when you say language, is it the same as the devices and all those things that you've been talking about?
Yes,
Oh, then maybe Kyle's point of the use of one stanza, I think it emphasizes the unity of how people think about war, because yeah.
Okay. You can also add that this stanza is very long, so it kind of describes in detail the effects of war or the things that come with war. Look at the title. What can you say about the title?
Is it an ironic title?
Why? Why do you want to say it's ironic?
Because, okay, irony is supposed to be the opposite of something that is expected, right? And we wouldn't expect war, something so bad, to be working so hard.
Okay, but before you even get into irony, what is the first thing that should actually hit you? What usually works hard?
People.
So if someone is getting an idea, war, and making it work hard, then what literary device is it?
Title, personified title.
Okay, so personification, thank you. Clara, was that you speaking?
Madam, for me, about the title, I think when I see the title, it arises the 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 reader's curiosity, so that he or she can read the poem.
Okay, true, but what makes you curious, eh? So you'd have to talk about the fact that it is weird that they're making a non-living thing work hard. Eh? So you're curious to find out how this war actually works hard. Okay, so you must give your answer in detail so that there are no questions left in the examiner's mind. So be specific in your explanation. The war works hard, does it? How magnificent the war is. Is it magnificent to have war? So I'm going to read, but as I put my little words, so that by the time I finish, you guys are now telling me this, that. How eager and efficient. Early in the morning, it wakes up the sirens and dispatches ambulances to various places, swings corpses through the air, rolls stretchers to the wounded, summons rain from the eyes of mothers, digs into the earth, dislodging many things from under the ruins. Some are lifeless and glistening, others are pale and still throbbing. It produces the most questions in the minds of children, entertains the gods by shooting fireworks and missiles into the skies, sows mines in the fields and reaps punctures and blisters, urges families to immigrate, stands beside the clergymen as they curse the devil. Poor devil, he remains with one hand in the searing fire. The war continues working day and night. It inspires tyrants to deliver long speeches, awards medals to generals, and themes to poets. It contributes to the industry of artificial limbs, provides food for flies, adds pages to the history books, achieves equality between killer and killed, teaches lovers to write letters, accustoms young women to waiting, fills the newspapers with articles and pictures, builds new houses for the orphans, invigorates the coffin makers, gives grave diggers a pat on the back, and paints a smile on the leader's face. It works with unparalleled diligence, yet no one gives it a word of praise. Okay? So, is this a praise song to the war? What is this person doing? Class, I'm waiting to hear from you. There's so many things that this poem is doing. Okay, I will take you through a few things that I could easily pick out, but after this you can keep adding to what you see. Okay, so the war works hard. We've already said there's personification there, but you can also see the sarcasm and wit or humor. Okay, to bring out how catastrophic the war is. It actually does not work hard, but it causes disaster. That is what this title is emphasizing. Then when you look at these first three lines, they're still also being sarcastic, mocking war. How can someone sit down and think that war is a good thing? Yet it comes with all sorts of negative stuff. Okay? Then they go ahead now to show us those negative things. And that is where we should be able to see the irony and the paradox. Early in the morning, it wakes up the sirens. Okay? So that is not a good thing, really. Ambulances have to move to places. And of course, we know that wherever there's an ambulance, there's either a sick person or a wounded person. So is war really a magnificent thing? Swings corpses through the air, so you can see bodies flying all over. And it might not even be the whole body, but parts of the body. I think some of you have seen pictures of what is happening in the Middle East. Okay? You can see people's hands flying in the air and when bombs go off and things like that. Is that what makes war hardworking? It summons the rain from the eyes of mothers. Here there's exaggeration, hyperbole. Is it the rain that is being talked about, or it's actually tears? Mothers are crying when they're losing their children and husbands and things like that. It digs into the earth. So destruction, it just doesn't stop at dead bodies, but even material things are spoiled, buildings, etc. Okay. Then of course we have the ellipses. Remember when we talked about punctuation, I mentioned these. The first one, dislodging many things from under the ruins, which intensifies the negative effects of war. Then it talks about the bodies. Some are lifeless and glistening. That is oxymoron. I think we talked about oxymoron in the last lesson. So if something is lifeless, then how can you say it is glistening? You know, two opposites together. Then others are pale and still throbbing. Now that is what we call antithesis. Okay, so it brings out that very negative impact of war on people, both the people who are dead and those who are living. Then the poem continues to use wit in the vocabulary. How can you say that it entertains the gods with fireworks and missiles? War is not entertaining, but if someone is using that humor, that wit, then you can see the effects, the negative effects of war. It sows mines in the field. When we are sowing plants for food, but here war is sowing mines, those things, little bombs that go off. So you should be able to see that irony. It rips punctures and blisters. Those are the good things, good here in quotes, that come out of war. So you should be able to see that irony, that ridicule. It urges families to immigrate. I don't think many of us like shifting, but when war comes, we'll be forced to shift. Is that what we want? As we keep screaming, war, war, war should happen. Then, of course, it talks about the devil. There's personification there. The devil remains with one hand in the searing fire. I don't know what the devil looks like, but in my opinion, this is personification to bring out how absurd this war is. Then continues working day and night. This goes back to the title. It's still personification, showing how persistent war is. Okay. Then, you know, what it does to the leaders. It inspires the tyrants, the people who are causing this fight, to deliver long speeches, awards, medals. So someone is emphasizing all the negatives in war, using imagery and irony. So to show all those negatives. And then this sarcasm in this line, it works with unparalleled diligence, still to emphasize the destruction that war causes. And yet no one gives it a word of praise. Here it's ironic because war does not deserve praise anyway. After all this destruction, what are we praising? So this poem has a lot of satire and it has many tools that we talked about earlier. Of course, now to your list, you can include paradox, you can include antithesis. These ones are more of language than elements. And then, of course, we've talked about the other devices that we see in the poem, the short line, the exclamation marks. Remember, we said punctuation, you look for the extraordinary, the ellipsis. Look at the title, look at the ironic language. The third person, someone is telling us the effects of war, what they observe about war, what they have observed, and the destruction that it causes. So if you're asked a question on the language and style in this poem, you realize that it is very rich. You can even have as many as 25 points. But what's important is for you to be able to pick out the aspect, give a specific example, whether it's by direct quotation or by paraphrase, but usually paraphrase shows better understanding. And then, of course, bringing out the effectiveness. Okay? So I've tried to quickly go through the aspects of language and style, but I know that there are more. The minute someone sits down to discover, they'll even discover more than I could in the short time that I sat down to analyze. Okay, I think I have overspoken. Now let me wait for you guys to speak. Any additions, any questions? Yes, Vicky.
Oh, thank you. Well, my question is on the use of antithesis and which I'm kindly requesting for some explanation. Like, how do you know that this is antithesis and this is which? Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I should first ask Vicky, what is antithesis?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay. So, wit is humor, really. Just a play with words. Wit is actually humor. So when someone speaks something that is intelligent but funny, then you can talk about it being wit. Then antithesis is more of an opposite. Okay? So someone here is in the poem is talking about how some people are lifeless and glistening. So these are the dead people, while others are pale and still throbbing, those who are alive. So you have that opposite meaning. You talk about the dead, you're talking about the living. So the war does not only affect those who are dead, but it also affects those who are living. So that unsparing impact. So when we have opposites of an idea, then we can talk about antithesis. I hope I've tried to break it down a bit, as
Yeah,
I think
sure.
we've
Thank you.
okay. Nyakata?
Teacher Teddy, could you kindly explain the word paradox?
Okay. So paradox, you know what oxymoron is, right?
Yes,
Do you?
teacher.
Now, in oxymoron, you're using the words are very close to each other. Either they are next to each other or there's just a separate one word that separates them. So opposites, but in words themselves. So here we have lifeless and glistening. Now, paradox. Paradox, let me say something that is self-contradictory, but it's not just the words that are contradicting themselves. It has more of an idea that seems to be contradicting itself. So someone is saying here that the war is magnificent. It is eager and efficient. And then the next thing you know, they're telling you early in the morning, it wakes up the sirens. Like they're giving you opposites, but in an idea, self-contradicting. If it's magnificent and eager and efficient, we all know how we don't want to be woken up early in the morning. So if the war is waking you up early in the morning and not gently but with sirens, I think some of you have been on the road and then maybe it's even in jam and then you hear sirens behind you and all you're thinking about, oh, bagenda tuise, like these guys are going to pass by us and yet we're moving in jam slowly. So that is the paradox that I'm talking about. So paradox is more bigger than oxymoron. Oxymoron is in words that are close together. Paradox is slightly bigger. Paradox, oxymoron, antithesis, they're kind of cousins, but can be different.
So teacher Teddy, just for clarification, paradox is basically a contradiction presented in form of an idea?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome. So, opposing ideas, really. That's what paradox is. Any other question or addition? You know, someone could have seen something that we haven't talked about. Yes, Vicky?
I was thinking about overstatement, like can't it work? Like in this case, they are should I say overpraising the impact of war? Yeah, I don't know if
Okay,
it's right.
good. Yes, it's correct. So, you look at the first three lines and even the last one, it's talking about praise. And yet in reality, there's nothing positive that it says about war. So we can talk about overstatement. That's the satire. Thank you. Tabby?
So in the first passage, you talked about how we're talking about punctuation, and you see how there's no punctuation in a piece that would stand out. So I don't know how to explain it, but in this piece or in this poem, there is hardly any punctuation. There is no commas or anything. The lines are just continuously flowing. So I don't know how to explain that. I don't know whether it was a typo or something.
No, it's not a typo. It's intentional. Why do we think that after this exclamation mark, there's hardly any punctuation aside from the hyphens and the ellipses? Hmm? Because when you look at it, after that, this person seems to be adding negative to negative, negative to negative. It's like they're compiling things. How you see that a dustbin is already full, but you keep adding, 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 just to show people how bad, how destructive the war is. So that is why there are no punctuation per se, just to show you that absurdity of war or how destructive war can be. Yes, so you can talk about that lack of punctuation, especially in the middle part of the poem, when they're showing how destructive war can be. Thank you. Anything else that someone wants to point out? Okay. So I hope all of us have picked something in today's lesson.
Teacher Teddy,
Maybe one
before
person. Vicky, is that you speaking? Do you want to say something?
is Nyakato.
Yes, Nyakato.
So I was inquiring whether we could consider euphemism here, because they lightly speak about the war, or they bring the subject of the war in a very subtle manner ish, I think.
Okay. Yes, true. We can talk about euphemism. And euphemism is kind of understatement. So it still goes back to the satire that we've talked about. So euphemism is a sort of understatement. You don't want to show how big or negative whatever you're talking about is, so you kind of state it, a little bit nicer. Okay, thank you very much for that. Anyone who wants to tell us their take home for today before we conclude this lesson? Today is the last lesson of a holiday, so I don't know if anyone has a general question that can be answered in these last minutes, or someone wants to share their take home, or even just to give feedback for the sessions. Yes, Tabby.
So, teacher, this wasn't really a question, but we have our WhatsApp group of mostly people who attend this help literature lessons, this is a literature group specifically, and we had an idea of holding discussions under different topics, and they could also be scheduled. I talked to teacher Stephen about that, and he guided me on that. But I just wanted to ask the rest of us here whether anyone else would be up for it. It didn't have to necessarily be something formal or coming with presentations or anything. We can just go and discuss a certain topic or something certain about a different book. And we were just asking how many people would be down for that and which days or time would be favorable to those who can. Thank you, Kyle. I think you said you're in the chat. And Abby. I think let me put my number in the chat for those people who want to reach out to me about that kind of thingy, and then we'll talk about it more in the group.
Okay, thank you for that information. So someone in the chat was asking me to say something more about ridicule. To ridicule is to mock or to speak about something as if you're looking down on it. You know how you walk into a room and you find people discussing, and then everyone gives you this eye of, who are you? What are you doing here? Now, sometimes when someone is speaking about an idea or a flow or a vice, they give you that feeling of, what are you saying? Like, what you're doing is really negative. They're scorning it, they're mocking it, and showing you that this is bad. So you're talking about war, but like it's magnificent and all that, but is that what it really is? Are you for real? Kind of thing. So when we are talking about ridicule, you should be getting that feeling. Okay. So I think I will stop here for today. The aspects will be sent on to the WhatsApp group, the help WhatsApp group. So be sure to access for those who have not been able to access, and then ensure that you keep on discussing. You can never pass literature without discussion. So your best ally with literature is having a discussion group, and in that discussion group, don't just listen, participate, speak, so that you can learn better, so that people can help you better, and so that you can even help others. So please continue to discuss. You still have time ahead of you before you neb. Make good use of it. Okay, so enjoy the remaining part of your holiday.